Hello and welcome to Podsongs, where we interview inspirational people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. Today, my musical co-host is Jinty McTavish of the band ATLYS. Hello,
Hey.
Jinty.
Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you.
Yes.
So we've changed the format now of Podsongs a little bit. I'm having a pre-chat with you as a post-chat and launching it before the episode because it was 1 year ago we did the conversation.
It was. It's great. Hard to believe.
Well, the song is a masterpiece.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you've spent a lot of time on it. Congratulations. It's spellbinding.
Thank you. I'm so excited for everyone to hear it. And
Yes.
it's actually my first completely original composition. And so it's been a really special process for me to be able to write it. And then, the first time hearing it recorded definitely brought some emotions. It's just like, it's a magical experience because we don't do it like songwriters, right? We don't just sit in a room, maybe play a few chords, figure out the lyrics. That's a beautiful process in itself. But I use software, input everything. And then we practice it, and we actually record this in separate rooms. And so I hadn't had a really good concept of what it would sound like. And so the first time hearing it all together in the session is a magical experience. So
Wow.
Thank you for
So there's many
getting me to do this. I've been wanting the kick.
So many of your fans are listening to this show, but for those that don't know about your band, maybe I'll just read a short introduction.
Of course.
Tell them about ATLYS. So born from a prim and proper conservatory chamber music background, barrier-breaking string quartet ATLYS was formed from a dream to bust through classical concert stereotypes and creating a welcoming concert atmosphere for people of all backgrounds. The all-female powerhouse group has created an atlas of cinematic music spanning a variety of genres, following in the footsteps of groups like the Turtle Island and Kronos string quartets by pushing the boundaries of sound with their traditional instruments and incorporating technology, experimentation through looping and computer programming. Self-built and fan-funded, they've built a global fan base, and their music has been streamed over 12 million times worldwide. Their punchy and virtuosic sound has taken them to venues like Red Rocks and the Gorge Amphitheatre, but their punchy and virtuosic sound has taken them to venues like Red Rocks and the Gorge Amphitheatre, but they're equally at home in more intimate venues. They've supported artists from a plethora of backgrounds like EDM producer Seven Lions, indie songstress Spelling, and alternative feel-good bands like Sammy Ray and the Friends. Yes, I was so many wonderful videos of you performing together. You started out on cruise ships.
We did. Yeah, on the high seas.
Yes, those are hard gigs. Lots of
They
shows.
are. We got about 1,000 shows in our belt, under our belt in the span of, I guess, 13 months in total. We were at sea, and we were lucky enough to represent Lincoln Center in New York City. So they took very good care of us, and so we had our own rooms and guest status and all of that. So
yeah,
nice.
We talked about how that was you were like the Beatles of classical music.
Yeah, we were marinating during that time, I think.
Yeah, well, you're born in the fire. You need that intensive training, but you all come from classical backgrounds, and there's so much work involved. Because once you kind of learn the guitar, as I have, the 3 chords that I can manage. But are you still practicing 4 or 5 hours a day?
I wish I could. When I was in school, it would be up to 7 or 8 hours I would be playing. Now, when we come together for a show, we'll rehearse a good 8 to 10 hours in the day before the show. And I still have days that I will practice 3 to 4 hours. But because of the business side of things and all the other things we have to do as musicians, I don't always get to touch my instrument every day. So
Wow.
I have to be very efficient in what I can do. And that's why I'm so grateful for that time at conservatory to really get it together so I would know what to do now when I have less time.
Yeah, you have calluses on your keyboards now from so much marketing work and booking the shows.
That's right. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but
it's
you have
a lot
to
of
put
fun.
it in. Yes, and your Instagram account and you these wonderful videos you do. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're
go ahead.
most famous for these how shall I put it? These covers, these reimaginations of popular songs as well. I particularly
Yes.
loved the like Believer with Imagine Dragons. I mean, you've done
I wrote that one.
yeah some amazing amazing instrumentation there.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, that utilizes our looping, which you kind of mentioned in our bio there. We're I think the only string quartet that has all members looping, and we'll do it live
Wow.
in our shows. And the piece that I actually wrote does include some of that looping in there to create more texture and a bigger sound. And
Oh yeah,
it
you can do it
and
live as
just
well.
we can, yes. Yeah, we
Wow.
do it live in the shows. We used to do it fully live through looping pedals,
Hmm.
the Jam Man that they don't make anymore. It would sync, but now we do
Oh,
it through Ableton. Um, and
wow.
yeah, it's a lot of power to have under your fingertips to be able to like quadruple or double or triple your sound
Mm.
with 4 people. We
That's a lot
love
of
it.
pressure as well because if one person messes up with the syncing or yeah, it's
Yes. Well, now with Ableton, it helps take out some of those
so you have
unknowns, which is great. Yeah.
you have an
Yeah, the
emergency
Jam Man was
escape
a lot
hatch.
more living on the edge, but
Yeah.
we did it. We did it for years and years, so we got pretty good at it. But yeah,
Gosh, so many strings to your bow, if you'll excuse the pun. But yeah, I mean, so you this is the first song that you've composed entirely by yourself. Is that what you just said?
yeah, this is my first completely original song. So I've done arrangements for ATLYS. You can hear a couple of them. One of them is Believer. Um, and I've done like a piece called Serioso that sampled a Beethoven string quartet, the Serioso. I heard it live and just got really inspired and made that part into a chorus. But this is the first piece that I've written that is fully just out of my own mind. And this conversation was very instrumental, and it was actually one of the fastest concepts to come to my head. Like I was able to hear it, but then of course you have to refine it, so it takes time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, the theme for it came pretty easily, and everything kind of unraveled from there. Um,
Wonderful. Yeah, the theme is very an earworm.
yeah, it's definitely more classical than a lot of our stuff is.
Mm.
But I was thinking when I started to write the piece, I had inspiration from a playlist and especially this video on TikTok, of course, of this beautiful sheep dog just like running full speed, and you can tell that the people are on like a golf cart or something going
Mhm.
fast, and this dog is keeping up with them. And there was a song called Run Boy Run that was accompanying the video, and it was so epic and majestic, and I just felt like it just captured the essence of these animals so completely. And so I was
Mm.
like, that's one of my inspirations. And then I took a couple other pieces that really inspired me and put them into a playlist. And so the whole time I was writing, I was thinking of both that video, but then also our own animals as well.
Yes. Well, you've segued beautifully. You could be the host of this show. You segued
Oh,
into
thank
the
you.
subject of this because so that's the song which is going to play at the end of this podcast. So no skipping, people. You've got to hear the
Don't
interview that
skip.
inspired it. Yeah, yeah. So our guest, who the interview which people will hear in a moment, is with Linda Michaels, the world famous dog trainer. Could you tell us a little bit about Linda and why you chose her to be your guest?
Yeah, I mean, for us, animals are like the center of our world. The string quartet, we are constantly sending animal videos to each other. We're just like obsessed. And so when you asked me about like who we should be getting for this interview, my mind immediately went to some sort of animal activist or psychologist or trainer. And Linda is truly that. She has helped so many animals over the years, helped rehabilitate them to be in a place where they're able to be adopted. She's even worked with, I think, foxes, if I remember correctly, and just like all kinds of animals. And she's truly just she's developed such a knowledge alongside her passion for making sure that these animals go into loving homes and are in a mental place, because I feel like they're kind of like humans in a way. Like, you got to get into the mental space where you're ready to be loved. So she does that with them. And having a dog myself and having grown up with dogs, it just means so much. And it was really cool to hear from her all about that.
Well, you really touched her as well. We've been in touch now for a year by email, and I've been privileged to see this unfolding. And she says it's a career highlight for her, this song.
Yes. She's like almost made me cry several times with her email.
Yes.
She's so sweet. Yeah. So I'm so excited to release this, and I'm so glad that she's gotten to hear it and just know what an inspiration she is.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Because you could have been inspired to write a song about this, but now when knowing you have a purpose and that you're writing it for a person like this, and I like to think of Podsongs as a way for people to say thank you, because you have a gift, you have a talent, which is maybe ordinary to you, but it's amazing to other people. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can compose a piece like this is, it just takes people's breath away, and to have it done for you as a way to, as a thank you, is it's just wonderful. It really is an emotional peaks.
Yeah, I'm so happy I could do it.
Yeah,
that's why I'm a musician. I like to make people happy. So
you do, yes, wonderful. Well, I think people want to hear the interview and then obviously the song. But before we do, let's just remind people to please like and subscribe. Yeah, there's many other interesting episodes people can listen to. Let's go back through the past episodes. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. I always forget to say these things, but it does make if you're listening to this show now on your device, and it doesn't take anything to click the like button. And so go to ATLYS on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's ATLYS Music, ATLYS with ATLYS. You have a wonderful Patreon, which
we do. We're so thankful for that. We wouldn't be running without it. Just those people have truly become like a family to us. So
yes, and Patreon is developing so much, and that you can really get close to you as an artist and keep in contact and get exclusive content. What are some of the other things you have coming up? What should people follow you for?
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly releasing content on our socials, like all kinds of fun things, videos, and the Patreon members will get a longer version of that each week. So if you love string quartet music played in different ways, then you should definitely check that out. Later this year in November, we're going to be releasing our 4th studio album, which actually last year when I talked to you last, Jack, we were doing the Kickstarter for, and our amazing community helped us to record it. It's about a series of gardens. It's a series of vignettes, and it's actually neo-romantic album art, which is different for us because we typically do covers, but this piece was fully written for us by my friend Ari Fisher. And it's going to be stunning, and we're going to be releasing that. If you're in the Chicago area, we're going to be having a huge concert with actually playing that piece with a chamber orchestra in November. Wow. So definitely check that out.
And will you be touring it across the US?
We would love to tour the chamber orchestra version. We'll definitely be performing the piece in our performances, even if it's just little segments of the vignette, because it is an hour-long work. So we like to try to break it up to help make it relatable and enjoyable to all of our audiences, which span such a wide I want to say genre of people, but types of people, different types of people, which we love.
Yeah, no, it must be so interesting a show. You don't know who's going to turn up, which kind of person, who's found you through which medium. So
it's true.
Yeah. So you're developing so much across and so quickly. I recommend people sign up to your mailing list. keep up to date and follow the band in the future.
Thanks, Jack.
Wonderful. Well, without any further delay, let's hear your conversation with Belinda Michaels.
Yay! Awesome.
I am so delighted to be here. This is more special than I think anything I've ever been asked to do before. I'm just really thrilled that this opportunity, for creativity with our common love of dogs has been tapped here by you, and y'all look like amazing. And
Oh my God.
thank you for oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh my God. Oh, she's behind. She's sleeping. She's half asleep. She'll be back. She'll be over later.
Yeah, dog people are good people. There's something bond that we have in common with each other, as pet parents, or any kind of animal lover, really. But dogs are special. They really are. They're exceptional.
They really are. They're really literally, I think, the center of our world. Like, we're obsessed with our animals.
Good. I'm totally obsessed with my work with dogs, and I have been for a long time. My whole world revolves around, mostly it's become animal welfare. Really, I wasn't planning to go into animal welfare per se. I was on more of a physiological track at one time. But when I got involved in behavior modification and began to see what was happening in the dog training unregulated world, with shock collars, prong collars, choke collars, even slip leads, and what goes on in a lot of the different professions that are associated with caring for dogs. And I started to see the problems. It became an animal welfare mission for me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh my
Very
gosh.
important one. It's amazing.
Well, Linda, since this is a podcast, I'm assuming most of the audience members who are listening probably don't know who you are. So I'd love to just take a second. I kind of took your bio and made a couple sentences. So I'm going to read that out, but then I'd love for you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us more about yourself. So this is what I have written down here. Linda Michaels, creator of the Hierarchy of Dog Needs, is rated one of the top 10 dog trainers in the United States by Top 10 Magazine and other acclaimed reviewers. Her unique combination of scientific training and hands-on experience with dogs, wolf dogs, and foxes creates a bridge between the worlds of research, dog trainers, and pet parents. Linda is a staunch advocate for force-free, dog-friendly dog training. So I'd love to give you a second to just introduce yourself and say anything more about what you do.
Well, yes, this is okay, so this is podcast, so we're not doing the Zoom recording.
There is video as well on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, okay, because
You're hired.
if I could do like PowerPoint, can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is kind of key to what my signature moves have become, and it's the hierarchy of dog needs. And I developed this and designed this. Largely was inspired by my experiences at the Humane Society, where I volunteered and worked for 5 years. And let me just tell you that when I first came to the Humane Society, I wasn't really planning on doing that. I was involved in research, behavioral neurobiology at San Diego State University, and I was looking for a master's thesis. And I liked what I was doing, but people had told me, if you don't find something that you're passionate about, you'll never finish.
Yeah.
And, so I was getting very worried. I thought, I'm having a really hard time here finding something that I'm passionate about. So I ended up asking my best friend, I always worry. I was like, time was growing short. I said, what should I do? What am I going to do? And she said, well, what do you love? And I thought, well, that's a silly question. I'm a scientist. Like, what do I love? And so I said, I love dogs.
Yes.
And she said, because she's so smart, she said, well, why don't you go down to the Humane Society and see if you can do a research project with the shelter dogs? And I was like, oh my God, that is brilliant. I said, that's it. That light bulb moment. I'm sure you have them with the music a lot where you just get, you realize, okay, this is it. So I went to the San Diego Humane Society. And as it turns out at that time, they weren't really interested in graduate students using their dogs for research. They do. A lot of humane societies now do have programs that incorporate, advanced education and some studies coordinated with, what they're trying to work on with the dogs. But at that time they didn't. But they said to me, well, we really need some volunteers. And after my first day visiting there, looking at the dogs, I was hooked right away. I'm sorry, I get emotional.
You care. Oh, yeah.
It was an experience that changed my life, and it guided the trajectory of my career. And all the work that I do today is, largely guided by my experiences there, working with the most difficult behavioral cases, and all the things that I saw about people bringing, the investigators bringing in dogs from hoarding situations, and the separation anxiety of the abandonment with the dogs was something that struck a note with me, because in my graduate program, in studying child development, and we studied about attachment, secure attachment, and attachment disorders. And what I was seeing there was starting to ring bells with me about my academic training and me wanting to know how I could transfer what I knew to help these dogs. And so I thought, this could really be it for me. This is what I want to do. This would be great if I could figure this out, And so, I set to work trying to learn all I could, in practice with the dogs, because at that time, my education was really academic. And so like transferring that knowledge to help the dogs was, has been and is still me wanting to be a catalyst between science, the pet parents, and dog trainers, so that everyone can reach a common understanding about our dog's needs. And the hierarchy of dog needs really is based upon the principle, it's based upon Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, which most people that have taken courses in psychology are familiar with. So I wanted to create a graphic that I could present on one page that would be easy to understand, and that would be available and useful to everyone from veterinary behaviorists to the average pet parent. And it's worked out really beautifully, because it is being used in veterinary presentations. And also, one of the highest compliments I got was a pet mom who told me, oh yeah, I have it on my refrigerator. And I don't know what to do. I go and I look at the training methods that are approved, and then we try to figure it out. So, yeah. So, I mean, I started out wanting to be a wildlife biologist, but then when I realized that it was mostly like tracking animals and tagging them, I thought, well, no. But I also wanted to work in a zoo, which is something that wildlife biologists do, but those are very, very few and far between positions. But interestingly, progressive zoos are really leading the way in animal welfare in terms of the methods that they now use to be, in all of their animal husbandry protocols. It's just amazing. I've visited, behind the scenes a number of zoos. And one of the most memorable was when they had a pen of big tortoises, and they were trying to move the tortoises into a different pen so they could clean the pen they were in. And they taught the tortoises to target. They just had this big piece of cardboard with a red dot on it. And whereas before they would have to prod, oh my God, I'm sorry.
No worries.
So sorry.
You're a popular person. I can.
They used to, even use like cattle prods to try to move these animals just to, get them into so they could clean their pen. And so all they had to do was they took out the piece of cardboard with the red dot and they put it over here, and then they all start lumbering slowly into the other pen. And it's really, it feels like magic the way that science works in, what we understand about behavior is so amazing. If we can just get people to understand how to use it with dogs who really deserve our unconditional love back.
Yes. Yeah. May I ask you, which are some of the most progressive zoos that you've come across, like in which cities or?
Wow. Well, the San Diego Zoo and the Safari Park, they use strictly positive reinforcement. And I have a video. I was so impressed because I went there and I knew what was going on, but I wanted to get it on tape. So on my website, Do No Harm Dog Training, and the blog, there's a video of me speaking to the caretakers and trainers, asking them about why they use positive reinforcement. And actually, it's a no-brainer. When you're working with a potentially very dangerous animal, you don't want to insert anger or dominance into the equation because it's not going to go well. And it's especially may not go well for the human as well as the animal. So, they have just developed some, wonderful ways of, doing blood draws. You've probably seen that on TV and a lot of the programs these days that are highlighting animal husbandry in zoos. Also, I believe, when I went to a conference in Oregon and Portland, I went to behind the scenes, looking at how they train the giraffes to clean their and cut their hooves. Just like that. Yeah. And I mean, getting tigers to offer their limb for a blood draw. It's just amazing the way that we can use the principles of learning to help our animals and to make life just go more smoothly. And so, one of my big goals is to work with more veterinarians in the veterinary community. And they are now making moves to work with gentle handling and restraint rather than some of the take the dog in the back room and just do it as quickly as possible. And then too often come back and perhaps tell the pet parent, oh, it went fine. Whereas the dog's experience was not fine. So I have a chapter in my book, and on the hierarchy of dog needs, one of the biological needs that I have is gentle veterinary care. Then gentle grooming. Grooming is another situation where,
Trauma.
Pardon me?
Trauma for the animals. Trauma.
Bingo. Thank you. Trauma. Right. The equipment they use, the slings, the dryers, the choke, the new, they call them nooses. They are nooses. So, most pet parents are just not really familiar with the dangerous equipment. And so it's a matter of education, and it's also a matter of groomers and veterinarians being willing to learn new things. So it's a challenge. But it's interesting that you brought up trauma, because one thing that we've been speaking a lot about lately is trauma-informed consultations with dogs to look for the trauma, particularly in rescue dogs, but in any dog that's having a behavioral problem. Because we find that when we go out of our way to understand dogs' needs and we try to fill their needs, which is the first 100 pages of my book, is all about the items on the hierarchy of dog needs. And it's all scientifically cited as well. I have 18 pages of scientific citation. Oh, great. Gosh, I just love that. Great.
I said, go buy it, everybody.
So yeah, I wanted to have a handbook to explain the hierarchy of dog needs in detail, because what happens is that it's almost like magic, but when we fill our dog's needs, most of what people consider behavior problems just mostly disappear. Because it's like, wow, this really works, because the dog is trying to communicate with us because something's missing, either an unmet need or an undermet need. And when we attend to that, things, the relationship and the bond, in addition to, what happens even spiritually, with our connection with our dogs is enhanced, and the behavior problems are like, finally the dog is being heard. And so listening to our dogs is critical. Before we go ahead and do stuff, we need to understand body language.
Really?
And so I'm just so thrilled that you're going to make music about, so there's these like two sides of the dog coin. The one is the incredible joy, and as I mentioned, this almost spiritual bond that just, there's no way to describe the connection that we have with our dogs. It's so beautiful. It can be really deep and exciting. And I mean, just watching them play, I could watch dogs for hours. They're just fascinating creatures.
You really are. Yeah.
It's so amazing. But on the other side, there's so much going on in the dog training industry that is really sad. and needs repair. So, you have like such a wide range of emotional contingencies going on to work with, depending on, what you want to write, and whether you want to focus on one side of that or the other or both. It's pretty wide open. I think I can't wait to hear what you might do.
We can't wait to hear it. Get it together. Yeah, we're really excited for this opportunity to talk to you for sure. But yeah, we got some questions here. So as you know, we're all animal lovers ourselves, and grew up with animals. And my mother's actually a veterinarian.
Right.
I can't wait to share this conversation with her. I'm sure she's going to be absolutely enthusiastic about all the things that you're saying. It really is amazing. And so it also brings up the question, did you grow up with animals from an early age? And we'd love to hear some of your story about from if there was any inspiration from a young child for you as where you found this occupation and that impacted your research and drive to study psychology and the no harm training from a young age, maybe? Or you've told us your story already, but we all have such memories with animals from a young age. So we just wanted to hear about yours.
Let me just say, about your mom being a veterinarian, that's so great. I wanted, after wanting to be a wildlife biologist, then I wanted to be a veterinarian. And when I first started school at UC Berkeley, I was on a pre-vet track.
Wow.
So yeah, and I am a certified veterinary assistant, and I was at tech at the Berkeley Humane Society and have assisted in surgery. And I'm very physio oriented, and those lines between biology and like the levels of the hierarchy, they're really more like waves, because when we meet biological needs, including veterinary needs and health, of course, it's, it is fulfilling emotional needs. So all of these levels are just sort of graphically depicted in this manner to make them easy to see and easy to understand, but they're not static, they're fluid. My father used to bring home dogs. He would pick up stray dogs. And so we had a number of dogs growing up. And one of the things that is being spoken about a lot in my field is trauma. And I didn't used to share this at all for years. However, I really do believe that my passion for animals stems from in part, my identification with them in terms of trauma that I had experienced in my childhood. And for example, when I went to the Humane Society and I looked into the eyes of these dogs, I saw something there that just grabbed me and would not let go. So, I've just always had a deep love for animals, all kinds of animals, horses. And one of the greatest experiences and teachers that I've had, are the dogs. The dogs are our best teachers, actually. So when I was at the Humane Society, the managers started asking me to pet sit for them, because I had a master's degree and they thought, well, she's probably reliable. She's got those letters behind her name. Actually, I put my master's degree on the side burner because I got so involved in my volunteer work there. I volunteered in every single department. I wanted to learn everything I could about adoption and abandonment and attachment and how I could help the dogs. So I also was very, very fortunate to get in on the bottom floor of a program that they had in the San Diego Humane Society, along with the San Diego zoos, was all very progressive. And they had patterned their programs after, I don't know if any of you may be familiar with Pat Miller, Patricia McConnell, and Ian Dunbar up in the Bay Area. They had developed positive reinforcement protocols and methods. And so the San Diego Humane Society looked at that and said, yes, we want to, be on the progressive side here, and we're going to have a trainers in training program. And so I said, trainers in training, that's for me, that's what I want. I need to be able to apply this academic training. And so I was doing that, and the managers asked me to pet sit. So I thought, well, and they had problems with their dogs. They said, well, Linda, can you, while you're there, can you try and, work this out and tell us what's going on? So I began, that was another light bulb moment. I thought, yes, I could. This would be a great opportunity to not only pet sit, but to live with these dogs in their environment, in their home, and work on whatever problems the pet parents are bringing to me and see if I can figure it out. So I have lived with probably about 60 different dogs, all different breeds, in, all different, medical conditions and emotional conditions and different problems in different homes. And so, and it's been sort of my responsibility, because in many cases, some of my wealthier clients, so they expected me to come up with the goods. We got this problem, and when we get back from Europe, we want, we want you to fix our dog. So I needed to, produce the goods, and it gave me an opportunity to try out a lot of different techniques and to actually see these things working. That really cemented my belief in OMG, this works. Because it always feels like a miracle when it still does. It's like, that was easy. Most, not everything is easy. The emotional stuff can get pretty challenging, but in many cases, I can just see well, that's the dog is telling you this and you're not hearing that. So let's listen to that, and then we'll address that. And then things will most likely go a lot better. So that was a training ground for me. And also, to answer your question, where my bond with dogs really blossomed, because living with so many of them and getting attached to so many of them, it was always hard to leave. But that really helped me develop the ability to help others. And so it was a great opportunity for me.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Do you have any specific stories that of working with a dog that was one of your favorite cases or something like that? Is there anything that you could share with us like that you're most proud of, maybe transformation wise? Yeah.
Wow. Well, so many.
I know, I can only imagine. There's a lot.
And the fear cases were the most dramatically touching, You come into a home where perhaps the pet parents had just adopted a dog from an abusive situation, but typically in shelters, we never know the background of the animal that comes to us. So, but you can tell, if you like just raise your hand and the dog flinches, like, okay, this dog may have been hit or kicked, and then comes into a home and find out that the man of the house can't get near the dog. The dog is horrified, terrified. And, dogs only have so many ways of communicating with us, and their teeth are one way that they can say, you know what, back off. I'm not okay with what you're doing. I'm not okay with you. And you need to let me protect myself because this is my defensive aggression and it's adaptive to survival. And if you continue to try to interact with me, I'm going to have to bite you. Because they can't speak to us and tell us, like, you know what, you need to go like slower, like a lot slower. Yeah.
So many times a day, I wish there will be technology. Do you wish there will be technology one day? Like an up where they can, I think we can translate a dog's brain signals into language. Like, do you ever think about that? I think that we would be surprised by the results. but I just think it would be so interesting.
Truly. And then let me go back to a couple of cases I was going to tell you about. That is very interesting because, yes, in studying about, first of all, my research in behavioral neurobiology, looking at brain anatomy and function, I realized that the dog brain, and now functional MRI studies, namely by Dr. Gregory Burns, has shown that dogs have approximately the same brain development and capacity as a 2 to 3 year old child. And so that's for life. Their brains are not going to become more cognitively sophisticated. Right. And understanding that about our dogs, that they are basically like a toddler in terms of impulse control, in terms of doing dangerous things that could, they'll hurt themselves. It really helps with pet parent expectations people I don't know why people have such unrealistic expectations for our dogs. People don't have those kind of expectations for cats. I'm sorry. They just let the cat the cat just does what it wants. And can't expect to, be able to go and cuddle the cat and for the cat to, although cats are trainable also, but people just don't typically with dogs, having that understanding about the brain really helps. And also they have these talking buttons now that
I want to train
if that's what you're that I think that there may be more typically attributed to what's going on with these buttons than is actually going on. However, dogs learn very well by association. So if you have a button that says outside and your dog pushes it and then you go get the leash, your dog is going to know, pressing that button leads to her going to get the leash and then we go out. So it's going to, look like something other than classical conditioning, associative learning. But and dogs do have greater cognitive abilities than we thought that they did. We are now discovering that they really are more complex than what was formerly believed. But one thing that I find really interesting is that they live in a different world than we do because of the way they perceive, the way their senses are structured. They're not attending to the same types of information that we are. We are very visually oriented, whereas the dog's muzzle is tightly packed with scent receptors, and a large portion of their brain is devoted to information processing of smells. They're seeing the world through scent. And something that's really interesting that so when something really popular now is sniffaries, and taking your dog out and letting them just sniff and sniff. They know who was there, how healthy they were. They also know, Dr. Horowitz talks about how dogs can see the past and the present, because just by sniffing, they can tell like who was there previously, like who just walked by and approximately when, and all kinds of information about them. They also can pick up who's coming around the corner, whereas we can't see this. We have these little tiny noses, and so dog intelligence is a whole different, human intelligence is largely measured by IQ and, how well we do on entrance exams for college and how suitable that we would be for that type of pursuit. But dog intelligence is, it's like a whole different world. And they are very intelligent in other ways where we have real deficits. And their hearing also is very sensitive. They, people talk about, oh, my dog startles at every noise, but their hearing is much more amplified than is ours. So they're hearing things and living like in a subterranean sort of an auditory world, hearing things that we are unable to hear. So, trying to learn to understand them and communicate with them. But yeah, I mean, it would be like you said, if we had like any idea of what was going on inside of their heads, would be surprised.
I'm just curious.
I make up things that I think she's thinking about. My favorite game.
we sometimes come into very early. I mean, Genevieve and Jinty both have dogs, and their ears being so sensitive, and us playing these instruments that sometimes some animals are very sensitive to the instruments. And I have a couple students who their dogs will howl when they play. Are they in pain? Do you think they're in pain when they are listening, or are they just like being like stimulated? I
think that it would depend on the level, the intensity, and the volume of.
Yeah, it's like a violin.
Would be exposed to, and so that's a good question and a good thing to consider. So I would watch. Dogs communicate with us constantly with their body language.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you know what a happy dog looks like, with the mouth open and relaxed, usually with the tongue hanging out, unless they're overheating, the ear carriage, the tail carriage, the wiggly body. If they look like they're having a good time, and maybe you provide a chew toy, a raw meaty bone or something to, provide a natural outlet for their energy, and if they want to move away, or, are they sticking really close to the music?
Right. Okay. Joni loves little Joni. Jen plays cello, so she plays the big cello. Joni is always like right underneath the cello almost. She loves it.
She doesn't mind.
And same with Aqua. She's always right beside me.
Well, being a scientist and just, trying to uncover what's might be going on, you also want to consider that separation issues. If your dog is very attached to you, they may stay by you regardless of how they're feeling otherwise. That their need to be very close to you is so intense. So I would like experiment with that a little bit and just, see if you use distance or, other distractions of some sort, like how willing they are to get close and maybe just not have the speakers, right by them. And actually they have like dog muffs now. I've had clients, I ended up having like a lot of very wealthy clients, I wanted to, so I moved to an area where I ended up moving into estates, so that was fun. And I had a one client who's, they were adopting a couple of puppies and they were being flown out in a private plane. And so they got the dog muffs to, they're on Amazon. You can get these headphones to dampen the sound, Of course, you have to condition your dog to wear them. Anything that you're going to add into the equation of, dressing your dog up with anything like that, you want to make sure that your dog wants you to do that you have created the association with the earmuffs to make them, you would like show the earmuffs and then piece of chicken and then put the earmuffs away and then earmuffs, chicken. And then if you present the earmuffs, you want to see your dog like look at you expectantly, like, okay, earmuffs, where's the chicken?
Right.
So they're okay. You're communicating and that they're okay with that. So that's a really good question for musicians to be asking.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting.
So I wanted to, if you don't mind, I mean, I don't really know how, I want to try to answer your questions to be on the same page with what might be useful to you for, creating your music. But let me just go back, if I may, to that question you had about cases. Yeah. So the fearful dogs, and say, just for example, the man of the house who the dog is fearful of because by association, perhaps they came from a home where they were abused by a man. And also men in general, because of their morphology and being taller, having deeper voices, maybe being a little more stout, they automatically fall into a little bit a different category on average than women, us being typically shorter. And so, using height when dealing with dogs that are fearful, such as, I had one dog, would not let the man of the house get near him. And so having him, I did it first and demonstrated, of course, lie down on the ground, full out flat on the ground, face down, because we don't want to do staring. Direct eye contact is less threatening when they don't have to deal with the face, and hands up with food in the hands. Got the dog to be willing to approach this person. And then we just kind of graduated from there very slowly, where the guy could, kneel, and then at some point stand up, tossing treats, providing like grazing games and scattering, and and all the benefits associated with desensitization, using food, with that natural behavior. And so, it was, a couple, and so I left, and then a couple weeks later, they send me a photograph of the puppy in his arms. And it's like, oh my gosh, look at that, whereas this was a bite about to happen situation when I came in. They were like, we think we have to give this dog back to the shelter. This is getting dangerous for my husband. And he's really distressed because he wants to get close to this dog, and the dog doesn't like him. So it's a matter of analyzing what could actually be going on with this animal, and how can we make it better. And another situation was with an aggression case that I had with a large breed, a guarding breed, which was frightening. This dog had bit a number of people who had come into the home. And the pet parents were at a loss of what to do about it. And one thing the dog was doing was they would have a guest, and when the guest came out of the bathroom, the dog would run down the hallway and be startled, as if someone was coming into the home, because the door was closed, and then the door opened and there was a person there. It's just like territorial aggression. So, I pet sat with this dog, and to be honest, I was well, I'm pretty smart. I don't want to get bit. Smart. But I wanted to be in close proximity because I was a stranger, and I was in the house alone with this dog, and any corner that I came around could be a big problem for this guard breed, because I'm a stranger in his house.
Wow.
So I was wearing a treat bag everywhere. When I was in the house, I was loaded with beef and chicken. I was like throwing food all over the place, and sleeping. I had to be like barrier protected so that he could not get to me, but that he wanted to get the food. So in the process of that, he was becoming acclimated to my smell and my movements, and everything had to be very slow. And one of the things that I realized became a great tool for me was voice. When someone was in the bathroom, before they came out, they needed to, having first made friends with the dog, not behind a closed door, so as not to trigger him when they opened the door and surprise him on have like an automatic reaction. Just letting the dog know, hey, it's John, I'm in here and I'm coming out. And then you open the door and you're throwing treats. And so what was a frightening trigger, door opening, person, John on the other side of the door, I need to guard this house because that's what I've been bred to do, became a completely different association for the dog. Hearing the voice meant the door was going to open and John was going to have cookies, like really good cookies. And so that whole change in perception of the situation for the dog, which then could transfer to other people and to other doors, was, it's just, dog behavior and in trying to figure out what to do is just fascinating.
Yeah. You're so creative. And it's like, once you say the solution, it's like, yes, of course. But it's like, the idea of the guy laying face down, like who would ever think of that? It's just so and then just, the use of treats and how successful that can be is really I think, encouraging to turn a lot of situations around and in a positive, gentle way. Well, that means that these dogs, they get a second chance if they've had a terrible, there's been something to make them that way. So, I really admire your work in the shelters. And, my sister has a pit bull named Millie, and she was abused up until she was about 4 years old, and she was put in a shelter and just kind of not aggressive, but just completely shut down. She wasn't eating, nothing. And it took my sister a good 2 months for her to warm up to her, but she was very patient. And she, when I went to visit for the first time, was like terrified of all of us, but now she's a completely different dog. And one of the things that helped a lot for her was they got a puppy. And so he has become her like support system. And he, even with my dog, she can get a little weird around dogs sometimes, and they know at that. They've never put her in a situation. They're very aware. So when she met my dog, she's a little weird with her, but Otis, the puppy, would get in between her and my dog and just kind of, okay, everyone, well, let's make some more space here. But it's just, it's been beautiful to watch that. And I think there's so many animals like that deserve that second chance. And so I just think it's really beautiful that you do the work that you do.
Yeah. It's very gratifying. And one of the beautiful things about it is that once you learn the techniques that are on the hierarchy of dog needs, I have the methods here. Management is so underrated. But no, instead of spending 10 years training your dog to stay in the yard with unfenced yard, which may or may not fail, management can always fail, put up a fence, like manage a situation. Always manage a situation before you begin to treat it. And antecedent modification. Anyway, I'll just like positive reinforcement, differential reinforcement. I explain these all in detail with dog examples in the book. Classical encounter conditioning, desensitization, which a lot of people are familiar with from the treatment of phobias in psychology. The Premack principle, which is kind of eat your peas and then you can have ice cream sort of concept. And social learning, which you were just talking about, the social learning with that puppy to the pit bull is, dogs definitely, and we all are a reflective of emotional contagion from the situational context that we are in, that we are affected by the emotional, ambiance of the others in the situation. So a puppy, usually it's the other way around, though. Usually an adult dog is teaching the puppy.
Yeah.
And puppies can learn a lot from a friendly, calm adult dog. But I can definitely see how a puppy can teach an adult fearful dog. And that, that engagement in play is on the hierarchy of dog needs. And actually, Dr. Beckoff has done serious observational studies of dogs at play. And so puppies being so playful, that could change the whole, it's like, oh, I was so serious. I was so scared. But look at this puppy is just like not bothered and wants to play. And so, well, maybe I could learn how to play in this situation. So it acts as desensitization. So that's brilliant that turned out that way, and that they were able to recognize the value of that. Unfortunately, getting another dog with separation anxiety typically doesn't work. because it's an attachment to the human, although dogs can have separation anxiety where they're attached to another dog, bonded tightly with another dog as well. But it could possibly help. There's a lot of individual variation, and like you said, it's like when you figure it out using these methods, if you begin to understand the concepts and how these methods work, you can start to solve your own problems. It's amazing. It's like stuff comes up and you're like, you know what I could do? I want to try this. And you find out like, wow, that worked. So that's what's so great about it is that like understanding the principles, then you can apply them to any situation with your dogs. And so, you can become the cord between in a communication between you and your dog and help, improve the situation. And often it's a wonderful feeling when you can solve the problem yourself.
Absolutely.
And you did mention using food. So let me just say that, yes, I do use food a lot in training. We are all dependent upon food to survive. And dogs, particularly being our captives, can't go to the grocery store and get what they want. They cannot open the refrigerator. They are completely dependent upon our generosity and intelligence to provide them with biologically appropriate, species-specific, nutritionally balanced diets. So, food is a very powerful motivator. We want to be careful that we're not luring a dog into a situation where the dog is frightened and just is attempting to get the food. And we're not putting the emotional problem first and foremost, and making certain that the food is not endangering that animal's emotional well-being. It's used as it should work, but affection used in combination with the food and emotions, our emotions toward our dogs, they're very much affected by, our state of mind and how happy we are about what they're doing or not. They, are very, they have seen it in studies that dogs can read people's facial expressions better than we can read each other's facial expressions. So they're watching you all the time. If you see your dogs probably they've become very good human observers. And
I notice with my dog, whenever I start to feel anxious or something, she's immediately right there, like ready to be pet or like as a comfort. And it's really beautiful. I mean, you gotta get her over here. She's so tired. But I had a couple just kind of finish up questions, but for the audience, like if they're thinking of adopting a dog or welcoming a dog into their home in general, and maybe they haven't had a dog before, what would you say to them?
Well, in my book, I list, I think that people should be aware of the options and what they want before they go and fall in love with a dog at the shelter, because your heart's just, it's going to be pulled. So I recommend like making a list of must-haves, don't want, and flexible on, like things like size, activity level, coat. Like, are you willing to do the grooms like every couple of weeks, or you just really would rather have a short-haired dog? So age, and so, looking at your schedule too, and how much time are you going to be able to devote, making sure that you're going to be a responsible pet parent and cutting out time to spend with your dog to acclimate them to, the new family and the new environment. I really like the idea, and more shelters are doing this now, where they allow fostering where you can take a dog into your home and see how it goes. And, it could be like difficult on the dog if you decide it's not a good fit. But, on the other hand, the dog is having that opportunity to get out of the shelter, which, can be a very stressful situation. Although, my heart goes out to people working in shelters. It's really tough. But fostering and, finding out if indeed, this relationship works and what's involved, I think is a good idea. They even do. I was visiting, one of my new things now is whenever I travel, I take copies of my books to shelters in the towns where I am, to humane societies or rescues, and to libraries as well. So, yeah, I've been learning a lot about the new things they're doing in shelters now. Some of them allow like overnights. You can just do it overnight with some dogs. And so, getting that information about, firstly, having some parameters about what is really going to work for you and your family. And then, taking your time getting to know the dog that, that you're choosing, I think are pretty good, ways to make sure that both you and that dog are going to be happy, and it's going to be a forever home, because we don't want people abandoning a dog for a second time or a third time or a fourth time. It's very, that secure attachment that we learn about in psychology. We understand it for humans, how hard it is to be torn away from a loved one, like from everything you've ever known. Even if it wasn't a good situation, you still, the study of dogs, where, we look at domestic violence and how people stay in those relationships. And even though they're unhealthy, but there's still an attachment, so it doesn't even matter. The dog has been torn away from what it knew and was familiar with. So we want to try to ensure that the next home is going to be the one, that it's going to be a good fit.
Yes, absolutely. That means it. And then of course, we have the book, which your handbook, which everyone should get, the Do No Harm Dog Training and Behavior Handbook. And it's like a textbook almost. It's very easy to find if you're looking for something specific, what you're looking for. And I haven't gotten through all of it, but it's been really, really enlightening to me. But are there any other places that people should go to learn more about your work and what you do?
Oh, yeah. I have, well, let me just say that, yes, I wanted the book to be like a reference book. And I really did write it because I wish someone had written this book for me. I have a big dog library. And when I've been researching a topic for some of the training columns that I wrote for newspapers or whatever, I'm writing a blog, trying to find the information that I want has just been so difficult. So I made sure to try to design the book. So there's lots of bullets like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. Make it easy to, instead of long narratives. And you're like, well, where's the, what do I do?
No,
And also
it's definitely worked. It's very easy to read.
Yeah, the index is, thorough. So you can just go right to the index. If you're having a problem, like go to the index and see if you can find it there. But I have the huge Facebook group. Miraculously, my Do No Harm Dog Training Facebook group is now 75,000 members strong.
Oh, that's awesome.
Growing. And it's international. So, we're learning about the different cultural relationships with dogs in other countries as well. And the hierarchy of dog needs I've had translated into 12 different languages. So it's on my website, Do No Harm Dog Training. And I have a Mandarin Chinese translation now. The last one was Greek, but I have, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Danish, German, Estonian, Korean. So yeah, I'm on a mission. I am on a mission to change the world for dogs, for the people that love them. So yeah, come in. I have like 11 amazing moderators. They are all truly experts in their areas, as well as they have very broad knowledge, and people are coming to the group. They have a behavior problem, and we're, like trying to solve it, help them solve it. I have an integrative veterinarian. I have a deaf and blind dog specialist. I have a gentle grooming academy founder, moderator. I have bite specialists and separation anxiety specialists. So, we're all there to help. And so it's a public group so that we're not just singing to the choir, but anyone can see what we're doing in the group. Although to join the group and to participate, you do need to be force-free and have decided to set aside the shock collar, the prong collar, the choke collar, and domination, intimidation methods, and be on the same page with us to try to find the kinder and actually the more effective method of training, modern training.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. We all align with that. I want to grab my dog before we say bye.
So we have like a Shih Tzu here. Is that?
Well, she is a Shih Tzu,
Havanese?
She has Chihuahua, believe it or not. 50% Chihuahua, 35.5 Shih Tzu, and 12.5 unknown. I don't know.
Very cute. Very cute. I used to think that I was a big dog person, and I trained wolf dogs. Yeah. Talk about that. Oh my gosh, look at your puppy.
This is awesome.
Your lap. Oh yeah, look at that face.
She's right.
Yeah, I always thought I was a big dog person until I did a pet sitting job and I fell head over heels with Chihuahua. I fell head over heels with the Shih Tzu. So now I just love them all, every single one. So thank you for show and tell. And yes, they look extremely comfortable. They look really happy.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, very happy.
And again, I just want to thank you. I am so honored that you would consider writing some music around, dogs and our common love of dogs, and the welfare work that I'm doing. I'm just I was just taken aback when Jack so graciously asked me to participate in anyone that I've told about this. They're like, "What? Wow, that is so cool. That is like so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, this is like so cool."
We feel the same way. And thank you, Jack, for bringing us together. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, Jack, thank you.
Wonderful podcast that you run.
Thank you. Are you feeling inspired then?
Yes, very inspired. And Linda, where are you in the States again? You're in California?
I'm in Southern California. I'm in Del Mar.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
so I'm pretty international because I'm just online all the time. And so I have people contacting me from all over the world. And, but that is my anchor, here in, close to the ocean and the dog beach. So,
there you go. Wonderful. Love that beach. Awesome. Well, Jack, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, we're going to go away and work on the song. It's not going to be, I don't know how fast it's going to be.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, as long as it takes.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
really understand like how this worked, but yeah, no, I'm very patient, and I will be absolutely delighted to play this song in my group and in all, on all of my platforms, because this is really special. And I checked my group out too. I said, who is ATLYS? And of course, so I was really impressed. I thought, oh, this is cool. This is.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, we're super impressed with you. We love seeing powerful women doing amazing things. It's very inspiring to us. So, cheers. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. And thank you, Jack, for orchestrating this, and Podsongs as well, your whole team. And just really excited to get this going and make some music for our pups. Yeah. For all the pups out there. For all the pups out there. Yeah.
So, we can chat by email, and I'll send what you have. We can do add in some other instruments as well, maybe if you need it, or produce it and mix it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, cheers, everybody, and thank you so much again. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, catch you later. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the song and the episode. The song will be released next week. It will be available on all streaming platforms, but you can already pre-save. Please support the artists by following them on social media and adding the song to any playlists you have. This is a completely free show, and you've listened this far, so I'd really appreciate it if you could pay us back by clicking like and subscribe. And follow at Podsongs on social media platforms, or subscribe to the newsletter at podsongs.com for special updates. Or just tell the next person you see about this amazing show where musicians interview their idols and write a song about them. The songs are available for download from the Podsongs website as well, which pays a lot more than the 0.00 whatever we get from Spotify. You can also email me at jack@podsongs.com to give feedback, suggest an artist and guest combos you'd like to hear, or just say hello. We're a listener-supported show, and I'd love to hear from you. A final thanks to my researchers, Dori Verbo and Rosa Marino, my producer, Maurizio Sanicola of Goldmine Records, and musicians Massimino Vozza and Luigi Falcione. The next episode will be out soon. In the meantime, you can listen to more amazing episodes in the archives. Until then, have a great day.